What is up, YouTube? In this video, I'm gonna be breaking down 10 things you need to avoid if you wanna make money betting on football. I'm a huge Commanders fan. I love betting on football. You can see here, I've made over $230,000 lifetime since I've started, gambling, betting on football. This verified bet tracker is called Pickett Sports, but I had some learning along the way. I made some mistakes initially, and I've really fine-tuned my process. So the point of this video is to basically just explain 10 things that you need to not do, 10 mistakes to avoid. If you avoid these mistakes, you're gonna absolutely crush the books this football season. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first mistake you wanna avoid as a sports bettor is only using one book. I meet so many people who are loyal to one sports book. It's like, these are not your friends. You don't need to be loyal. This isn't your wife, right? You can cheat on sports books. Sports books are trying to make money off you, so you should be using multiple books for a bunch of reasons. I've used over 100 sports books since I started gambling, and a lot of people will just say, oh, that's because you're a degenerate, but that's not true, right? My results, if you look at my lifetime profit, I'm up $50,000 plus on a bunch of different books. My results would not be possible if I only used one book. And the reason for that is all books set their own odds, right? The sports betting market is so fragmented, so inefficient, with all books setting their own odds. So we never know which book is gonna have value on a given day. So for example, I just locked in the Bucks for week 1 at -115 on Novig. They're offering really good odds. No other book is offering better than -120, -125. And you may say, well, who really cares if you're getting -115 versus -120? But long-term, sports betting is about getting an edge. It's about getting an edge, getting a mathematical advantage, and -115 versus -120, long-term, in terms of your ROI, it makes a big difference. So if you're only using one sports book, you're gonna get killed. So do me a favor, sign up for multiple books, at least so you can line shop and make sure you're getting the best possible prices, the best possible odds on all of your plays. So there's another reason you want to use multiple books, and that's because of promos. All of these sports books offer deposit matches when you first sign up. For example, on Prize Picks, they have a $100 deposit match. You first sign up, you put in $100, they're gonna match it, you now have $200 in your account. It's free money. All these books, they know 97% of sports bettors lose long term, so they give away some money at the start to try to, get people in the door. But it's the same thing, books want to keep you coming back to their platform. So Prize Picks right now has a literally free win on Avery Johnson. It's a free square. If he throws one passing yard, you're gonna win. They have a free square on Caleb Williams as well as Dak Prescott. So long story short, these promos are the easiest money you're gonna make. On Fliff, last year, they ran a bunch of, they're free $10 bills. These promos are capped at a max bet size of $10, but they had Jared Goff to throw one passing yard at +100. Same thing with Mahomes. That's literally a free $10, right? Obviously. So the first mistake that you're gonna make as a sports bettor, or I see a lot of people making that you want to avoid, is using only one sports book. There's no reason to be loyal. Use multiple books. So before we get on to the second mistake that a lot of sports bettors make and you want to avoid, if you enjoy this type of content, like, subscribe, comment other video ideas. I love making sports betting content, so let me know what other videos you want to see. I'm happy to do them. And also feel free to comment any questions you have. So the second mistake I see a lot of sports bettors make is they just focus on the wrong things. You see so many sports bettors who are focused on their win rate. What percentage of my bets am I winning? But it doesn't matter at all. Right? Last year, I won 535 bets on football. I lost 900, but guess what? I made over $80,000. Win rate is irrelevant. The only thing you should be focused on is your ROI and your profit. So just as a simple example is the Washington Commanders. That's my team, but they're -300 favorites in week 1 A lot of people are probably going to be betting the Commanders in their parlay. They're the better team. But when you're betting at minus 300, let's say your unit size is 300 bucks, you're betting 300 to profit 100, you have to win 3 out of 4 bets at minus 300 just to break even, right? So even though betting on the Commanders, they're favored to win, it's the more likely outcome. You get a feeling of winning money. It's not necessarily the best bet. So I'm in general betting on underdogs, and that's for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of sports books that I use, which are called DFS books, Prize Picks, Dabble, Underdog Fantasy, Better Picks, that are super lucrative, exploitable books. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on them, but they're parlay only sports books, right? So if you go to Prize Picks and you just try to bet on Tyreek Hill to score a touchdown, they're gonna tell you, hey, you need at least 2 picks. You need to parlay this with something else or we're not gonna take your bet. There's a lot of books that are parlay only sports books, which is why I bet on these books a lot. They're very exploitable, which is one of the reasons why I'm typically betting on underdog outcomes, right? I'm not betting on big favorites in general that are minus 300. So the third mistake so many sports bettors make is they don't track their bets, right? Like, you need to know your ROI, how you're doing, because if you've been betting on sports for 5 years, you don't even know if you're profitable or not profitable. Obviously, that's a problem. When I started sports betting, I was only betting $1, $5 per play, very low amounts of money, but I was ruthlessly tracking my ROI and learning about sharp, profitable sports betting strategies like arbitrage, EV betting. And so even though it's kind of a pain, you need to be tracking your bets, especially depending on the strategy you're using. So for example, the main sports betting strategy I use, I believe it's the most profitable sports betting strategy. I've made YouTube tutorials about it. It's called positive EV betting, but positive EV betting is higher risk, higher return. You're gonna have losing days, right? So especially in football, where basically all NFL games and college games are concentrated on Saturday and Sunday, you can sometimes have brutal swings, but you need to view your bets on a long-term basis. Nobody wins every single day unless you're using a strategy called arbitrage betting. Arbitrage betting is like risk-free profit betting. It's basically when 2 sports books have such different odds that you can play on 2 books, equal and opposite outcomes, day trade them to make a risk-free profit. So Arb Thief is the arbitrage GOAT. I definitely recommend following him on Twitter, but he solely uses arbitrage and wins every single day. But as an EV bettor, right, I have some brutal swings. So even this month in August, where it's just preseason, college football hasn't even started yet, I'm up over $25,000, but I've still had days where I'm down 5, 10 grand, maybe not 10K this month, I'm not sure. But regardless, like, I have brutal swings. So I really view my bets like an investment portfolio and I'm focused on the long term. So the fourth mistake so many people make when football betting is they don't realize time is their advantage, right? Football is basically, I mean, you have Monday, Thursday NFL games, but it's basically just on Sunday, there are plenty of good bets during the week. If you just look on Sunday, the markets are much more efficient, and also sportsbooks are watching their lines like a hawk. So oftentimes I find the best college as well as NFL bets when books first drop their lines for an upcoming day. So for example, you can see I was able to get 6 days before the game, Flith just dropped their line on this Kansas spread and they had this priced at plus 320. They quickly adjusted it afterwards. This bet is now gone, but they had Kansas on the spread at plus 320. Other books, Caesars, FanDuel had this around plus 220. So we're getting massive value on Flith, but the line didn't last that long, right? You gotta get these bets locked in early. Sometimes the best lines, the biggest line discrepancies you'll see are when books first drop their odds, so always be looking for good NFL bets, even on a Wednesday or a Tuesday. So the fifth mistake I see a lot of sports bettors make is they do not middle bet. right? Middle betting is an extremely sharp strategy. It's one of the main strategies pros use to make money. And basically, all books set their own lines. This is really effective for passing yards, middle yards, receiving yards. Is basically when two sports books get super out of sync and their lines are way different, you can bet the over on one book, under on another book to guarantee a profit. So as a simple example, on Prize Picks, I bet Jalen Milroe, this was a preseason game, under 113.5 passing yards. And then on Underdog Fantasy, their line was super different. It was a big line discrepancy. They had his line at over 81.5. His line was at 81.5, so I took the over. So basically, if Milroe has between 82 and 113 passing yards, I'm gonna win both bets. And you have to remember, players in general follow roughly a normal distribution. It's a preseason game. He's not even going to play that long. We know Milroe's not going to throw for 200 yards, and he's also not going to throw for 0 yards. So the probability he ends up in that gap between Prize Picks and Underdog is pretty big. So middle betting is a super effective NFL college betting strategy, and you have to be using it. It's one of the main strategies that I use every single week to make money off the books. So the sixth mistake I see sports bettors make when betting on football is they bet emotionally. You should never be doing that. You see a lot of people who lose money sports betting on the early slate, so then they degenerately bet the 4 p.m. in the Sunday night football game to try to recoup their losses. Don't do that, right? You're gonna have variance, ups and downs as a sports bettor, so you should never be betting emotionally. Don't lose your cool. Follow the data. You're gonna have some ups and downs unless you're using a strategy like arbitrage betting. That's just the way it is. The seventh mistake a lot of people make when betting on the NFL is they don't manage their bankroll. I mean, this goes for other sports as well, but when you're positive EV betting, especially if your bankroll is smaller, it's really important that you manage your bankroll properly. So I've made videos on my YouTube channel about this, but the best strategy for managing your sports betting bankroll, if you're EV betting or using a higher risk strategy, this doesn't matter for arbitrage because it's risk-free profits, but when you're EV betting, you should be using the Kelly criterion. This is the gold standard for managing your bankroll and making sure your risk of ruin, your risk of losing your entire bankroll is as low as possible. So watch my video on the Kelly criterion. That's the way that. So the eighth mistake a lot of sports bettors make is they make their bets and then they stop thinking about them. But oftentimes live in-game betting, especially at halftime, quarter breaks, is extremely profitable, especially arbitrage betting. So again, like you can see this guy absolutely crushed the books with live arbitrage, made $16,000 risk-free last year. Arbitrage betting is great pre-match, but live betting, these books can barely keep their odds in check pre-match and keep them in sync with other books. So live during games, especially checking for really good EV or arbitrage bets at halftime, you know, end of the first quarter, second quarter, like you can make a ton of money live betting on football. There's massive line discrepancies. So I highly recommend live betting, especially, you know, again, at halftime. In my opinion, that's the best time because you have tons of time to lock your bets in. So the ninth mistake I see so many sports bettors make is they bounce between handicappers. Listen, anybody trying to sell you picks, a lock of the day is full of BS. I explained this earlier. You know, even the best sports bettors, the sharpest sports bettors, are gonna go through winning and losing streaks. You need to have a long-term focus. Just following the hot hand, the guy who's won his past 2 or 3 bets, buying his picks, that's gonna get you killed long-term, right? Like, if you pick a point spread, randomly decide Jags plus 7.5 or Titans minus 7.5, 2 random plays, you're gonna be 50-50 to win or lose. So following the hot hand is a surefire way to lose money sports betting. You do not wanna do that. And the final tip I have is if you're new to sports betting, the biggest mistake that I see people make is they bet too big. There's so many people who are like, yo, I watch football every single week. I'm gonna start out betting $1,000 on every single play. Do not do that, right? Like 97% of sports bettors lose money betting on the NFL and college football. They all watch football. So watching sports does not mean you're gonna be profitable. You have to learn the data side. Invest in your sports betting education. You wanna learn about sharp, profitable strategies the sharps and pros use, like arbitrage, positive EV, middle betting. Take the time, watch YouTube tutorials on them, and start out betting small. As you see, hey, this is getting me a positive ROI, you can ramp up your bet size, your unit size from there, but make sure you're profitable first. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comment them. Also, let me know other video ideas. I'm trying to do a ton of YouTube videos this football season, so let me know what else you want to see me talk about.